All right, welcome to all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you for joining us to this very special ABC7 NY podcast. November is National Caregivers Month. It's also Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Yes. And we are so glad to be joined by the co-founders of the Act Now Foundation. We have with us today Kristine Allen and Cary Lopez. You co-founded this grassroots group to really raise awareness and advocate for people and their families with Alzheimer's. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
So we just came from, you guys answered at the same time. So
it'll probably happen a lot.
We just came from a virtual Dementia Tour at the Act Now Foundation, which we're going to get to a little bit later in our podcast. But first, I just wanted to ask you about what motivated you to start your foundation. And especially now as we're around the holidays or any time that families gather, why do you think it's an important message to send to caregivers and their families who are dealing with this terrible disease, which has affected your family and mine as well?
Yeah. Yes. You know, I mean, this was a calling. We never saw into our future and thought, oh, we're going to run a nonprofit about and take care of families living with Alzheimer's and related dementias until it hits you.
The first one that was affected was really my mom. Mm-hmm. And then we saw it in her only sister. Then we saw it in Kristine.
Yeah, both my grandmothers, my stepfather, and now my mother is living with it. So we're still caregivers today. But, we owned a company in another industry. And one day we walked out of a meeting and sat down and had a conversation and said, you know what? Our life has been consumed by dementia and we feel like we need to do something about it.
What advice would you give people that are experiencing a loved one that they're noticing, they're getting a little forgetful. The signs at first don't hit you over the head. Yeah. You're in a big denial period.
For sure.
But right now, as we're gathering on the table or preparing to see family, the things that you notice in your own lives, convey how that would help anybody kind of listening to this about what's their next move? What's your next step? Because I think you can feel very overwhelmed.
This is not something that happens overnight. Symptoms develop slowly. So you're looking for things that get progressively worse as time goes on. Mm-hmm. Because our brains age just like everything else. So our memories are going to fade. But when it starts to be not only just your short-term memory loss, but it's your personality change.
But it also, it affects you in your daily life.
Correct.
If your mom used to go to the senior center down the street or get together with her friends, now she's not doing it. So it's those little changes in her. And sometimes, we don't live with our parents or our parents don't live with us. It's being more involved in their daily lives.
But we always say it's more than just one thing. So it has to be more than just a memory loss. It's got to be memory loss plus problems with words, with conversations. Maybe they're not socializing as much anymore. Maybe they're pulling away.
So you should be cognizant of kind of watching out for that. And then what should you do? If you notice that, then what's the next move you make? First, you've had the realization, you can identify it. Something is amiss here, whether it's the things that you mentioned. I noticed, just a little bit of a lapse of self-care with somebody that wanted to be always looking perfect. With she owned a jewelry store and the makeup, the hair, the perfume, just like a slipping in kind of appearance.
Yes.
Once you can put your finger on that, Cary, Kristine, what do you do next?
You take her to her primary doctor.
Okay. Well, you could also call Act Now Foundation.
Right. Reach out for
seriously,
resources.
Reach out. I mean, Act Now, this is what we do. We actually do cognitive assessments as well. We're not doctors. We're not diagnosing. But for many families who don't want to talk about it with their doctors, we can be another avenue that people can reach out to for help. And we can assess them and figure out if we think it's something more than just normal age-related memory loss.
But the first step is, besides us,
is the doctor,
her primary doctor, who knows her or him.
Why do you think it's important for people to take the step to seek resources? Because I think you have a kind of embarrassment.
For sure.
And
there's a stigma.
There is a stigma. But the more we talk about it in things like this, and the more we bring it to the fore, this was something that families did not speak about.
Correct.
And it was just a hidden. Breast cancer was like that. And now look how the breast cancer movement, the NFL players wear pink socks.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you hoping for that kind of stigma to leave the dementia world? And why is it necessary for people to kind of seek a group like yours for support?
I think people don't realize that this is a progressive disease And as the years go on, they will get progressively worse. They will lose the ability to take care of themselves and to manage their own lives. So the sooner you reach out for help, the sooner you can be prepared for the journey that's about to happen, and make your own decisions. We always say, I mean, wouldn't you, as if we had been diagnosed with dementia, wouldn't we want to decide how we want to live at the end of our life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Living with dignity.
And living with dignity.
It's
Absolutely.
like what you were saying, someone that you know that used to bathe, now she's not bathing. You know, it's these little things that you want to be involved with every step of the way.
So you focus on caregivers, and this is Caregivers Month, and you help caregivers. And I saw firsthand when we were at Act Now Foundation going through the tour how important it is for caregivers to get the support. What advice will you give to caregivers right now when they're trying to get through maybe a meal? One of the tips you give is to simplify things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we're talking about holiday tips, simplification is always best. A less chaotic environment. But the thing that we would tell our caregiver is you're not alone. I mean, that's why we're here, but there are other organizations across this country that do what we do to support caregivers in their home. Our caregivers, we have this great WhatsApp text. So we do support groups on a weekly basis, but they also connect with each other.
Daily.
Yeah.
Moment by moment.
Several times
There's
a
like
day.
40 or 50 caregivers in a WhatsApp group that constantly are talking to
helping
each other
through every moment of every day.
What do you think when they talk to other people they get out of like-minded people that are experiencing the difficulty?
I'm not the only one going through it.
Yeah, it's invaluable.
It's invaluable. But also, empower yourself with information.
And I think what we went through today, you're talking about empowering yourself with information. We went through a virtual dementia tour. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at what I personally experienced in this sensory deprivation module. It was quite overwhelming and I would say life-changing.
Yes.
We're going to get to that right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you for coming back to join us for our special podcast. We are talking to the founders of Act Now. They help families coping with loved ones with dementia. And we're joined by, again, Kristine Allen and Cary Lopez. I just had the pleasure of going through your virtual dementia tour. First of all, tell us what created this before we get to the actual experience of going through it.
This is it's an evidence-based program. It was actually created by a company called Second Wind Dreams. Mm-hmm. And they created this with one goal in mind, so that people could see a window into the world of those individuals living with dementia. So it's an 8-minute experience about what it feels like to have the disease yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I know both of your families were affected by dementia, both your mothers, grandmothers. And your work continues, Cary, because of your late mom, Francesca Isabel Lopez, Isa. And you said you know what it's like to be a caregiver, and you loved her very much. This tour, how did it make you feel differently about the care that you gave your mom and what other people might be experiencing?
So my mom was sick for 14 years. She lived with us the last 5 years of her life. And this tour just puts everything into perspective. Why she would look at me when I'm asking her to do this and do that, and she would just stare at me. So with the tour, you are able to understand, because of what you went through, you saw earphones, glasses, things, and gloves, that when you're speaking with someone who has a brain disease, you speak slower, and you command one thing at a time. Once they finish that, then you can ask them to do something else. So this was a turning point in the care, not only for my mom, but for all the caregivers that have gone through it.
Yeah, that was easy to see why. Let's take a look at our virtual dementia tour, and then we'll talk after. This is what we experienced, and I think anyone who's a caregiver caring for someone with Alzheimer's, this was very eye-opening. Take a look.
We're going to put these on.
Wearing gloves that made it hard to use our fingers, vision-distorting glasses, and headphones filled with all sorts of sounds. 5 volunteers were caring for parents, siblings, or spouses suffering with dementia joined me walking in their shoes, literally.
It alters all your senses, your vision, your hearing, and your touch.
The virtual Dementia Tour was created by the Act Now Foundation, a grassroots nonprofit which raises awareness for Alzheimer's disease.
We want you to know so that it builds empathy on your end, it builds understanding from what they're going through.
I'm already seeing what it's like to have kind of problems hearing and focusing. I didn't really hear all the instructions. We were each told to carry out a list of simple everyday tasks, folding laundry, setting a table. After 8 long minutes.
I'm sorry. They couldn't get pictures. That was incredibly frustrating.
I wish I would have done this tour early when she was first dying.
Why?
Because it would have showed a little perspective of what she was going through.
Both Yolanda Morris and Michelle Blackwell are part of the sandwich generation, adults taking care of parents who are living longer and raising children.
Trying to prioritize who comes first is extremely difficult.
I wish I could be more with her and, but I have a family to take care of.
Who is glad that they went through this? Going through the simulation was overwhelming for all of us and life-changing.
Now I can go forward. Now I can help. Now I know what I can do.
I think I have to be a little more patient with him, a little kinder.
They cope through the resources of Act Now.
The way I deal with it is through Act Now and our weekly support groups, which is great.
Until I found Act Now, I felt lonely.
This became probably the most eye-opening thing I will have gone through, not only as a reporter, but as a daughter, as someone who's a caregiver. I can't tell you enough how much this experience has helped me.
We did it!
Okay, so you saw you cried afterwards, and you've been doing this a long time. I was very emotional. The people that went through it had a variety of reactions. They went from sadness to positivity almost.
Yeah.
But tell me what you generally see. Do people react more like me, or do people react more like some of the other ones, are more stoic? You said you had some people run out.
Yeah, we actually call them runners.
Runners, right?
Where, I mean, it's an incredible thing. We've had people who are angry. And we actually had someone who ran out of the room, was angry, very angry, came back 2 hours later and just said, I get it now, crying.
I think they're angry at themselves. Maybe we are angry at ourselves for not really understanding what
their loved one was going through. Yeah.
So
it was very uncomfortable. I couldn't wait to get everything off.
I think you even said, can I get out now?
You were told me that what was I doing in the tour that I didn't even realize I was doing?
First of all, you were speaking to yourself. So you were repeating every task you were trying to accomplish. You would say to yourself, okay, I'm going to fold the clothes now. Okay, I'm going to set the place setting for 2. And you would repeat everything. And you'll notice that your loved one will speak to themselves as well. And it's a calming mechanism. You were trying to calm yourself in a confusing situation. So you were also rushing through.
And you don't have a wounded brain.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point. You don't have a wounded brain, and you have the ability to reason and to judge and to figure things out. But yet you were not completing tasks to the fullest. You would give up in doing some of the tasks. You were trying to rush through the tasks. And then at the end of the day, you're like, I'm done.
I was just like waving my hands like, can somebody get me out of here?
Exactly.
It was not only do you have the headphones on, which we explained in the piece, you have visual impairment, you have a lot of noise. I couldn't follow the instructions that were given. So
are you supposed to?
Right.
That was the goal.
And it was so disconcerting to me, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there with a completely different perspective on what someone who is suffering with this disease may be hearing, may be seeing, may be feeling. And it was quite overwhelming. Do you find, Cary, that people, when they come out, have a new perspective on caregiving?
They have a little more empathy, I think. They're a little more understanding. They take a little step back. And I think that a lot of us we were angry. Personally, I was angry at myself. Not at my mom, what she was going through, but at myself for not understanding it and not seeing it. So yeah, you become more empathetic.
And that's the goal.
Yes.
What part of the tasks do you think really pushes that home? Was it the folding the clothes, the folding the bed?
What about opening a bottle of water and simply pouring a glass of water to drink?
Yeah, so the gloves, as we saw in the piece, they have fingers that are glued together, so you don't have the dexterity.
Correct.
Plus, you have the noise, and then you really can't see. So I couldn't open the pill bottle. I couldn't really set the table.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the edges on the bed.
Correct.
And all of it was succeeding and making me feel like anxious and frustrated.
Correct. But I think the biggest takeaway is that people don't intentionally, you're not supposed to understand the instructions that are given to you. Hence the fact when you speak to your mom and you say, Mom, hey, can you go take a shower? And she doesn't understand what you say, therefore she doesn't complete the task. I mean, that's the biggest impact, because people are like, if I just would have known what to do, I could have done it.
Right.
But take a step back for a second. That's what your mom's thinking too.
I was talking to Michelle, the mom in piece with the baby, Chanel, and she said the one thing that I'm going to take away from this is I'll tell my mom, okay, we got to, help me get ready. So let's peel the potatoes, and then let's set the table, and then let's rinse the vegetables, and then let's get the turkey ready. And then her mom would just look at her and walk out of the room.
Exactly.
It's too much.
And now we get why. So we both said, now we know one thing at a time.
Yes.
Simplify. One instruction, one task, not a list. Because as we saw in the Dementia Tour, you're never going to follow it.
No, you're not. And keep in mind, sometimes it can take an individual living with dementia up to 90 seconds to grasp what you said and to respond. So patience becomes one of the most important things you can learn through this tour.
It was, as I was surprised at my level of emotion, but when I saw you were crying in this podcast already.
I cried.
You were crying when you said goodbye to the team, and this is what you've been doing for a number of years. So the fact that you can still feel so emotional about it shows your real connection to people, and why we need this podcast to kind of tell people there is hope and you can cope. And we'll get to that in when you come back after the break. So welcome back to our podcast, our very special podcast helping those dealing with dementia, loved ones with dementia. It's National Caregivers Month, and the Act Now founders are here to help us with some coping tips that any family can really gain some knowledge from. First, you said simplify tasks when you're dealing with trying to get through anything, whether it be a meal or family gathering, a doctor's appointment. What should caregivers do?
Well, caregivers should learn to really take things one step at a time. The more simple you make things, the more success that they will have. And at the end of the day, they want to be helpful. Your loved one living with dementia wants to feel purposeful. They want to feel validated. So if you break things down simply, one step at a time, they'll be able to accomplish things and feel good about themselves as well.
So you should create a yes environment. So remove things that are going to be confusing. And what are some of those things?
Well, Mom, don't touch that knife. Mom, don't take the pills.
No, Mom, you can't take the keys and drive the car.
Those things you remove.
So take away the knife, take away the keys.
Right.
Take away things that they can hurt themselves with.
Take away the things that are going to make you say no to your loved one.
Okay.
Exactly.
So creating that yes environment.
Just remove them from the room.
Just remove them from the room.
Oh, just like you would with a child.
Yes.
Okay, you don't really think of that because it's your mom. There's a level of respect there.
Yes.
Where you're saying something, you're just like, okay, This is my mom.
Yeah.
And she could smack me.
Yeah.
So, but
And we still might.
And we kind of refer back to when we were 12.
We do.
No, that's my mom.
That's very great. Create a yes environment. Take things out that can hurt them or confuse them. And then compassionate deception. What does that mean?
This is one of our favorites.
Yes.
We as daughters have difficulty fibbing or lying to our loved one. But when it's a lie that's going to protect their well-being and their emotional state, then we need to consider it. For example, let's say your mom's husband, your dad passed away, and your mom wakes up and says, "Hey, where's your father?" Are you going to tell her every day that he passed away?
Right.
No, because you're creating a moment of trauma, and that could create agitation and anger
and sadness.
What should you do instead?
So you say, you know what, Mom, remember Dad had that business trip that he had to go away. He'll be gone for a couple of weeks. Or
So don't lie, just kind of distract.
yeah, it's called a compassionate deception.
Compassionate
We
deception.
don't want to, it's not lying. It's something to improve their well-being.
I think that we can all employ that in just our regular lives.
Exactly.
At work.
With your loved one.
This is really important. And I know, Cary, you wanted to get to this. Treat pain as an invisible villain. Your loved one has a remarkable change in their attitude.
They can't tell you.
What should you go to first? A checklist.
Okay, so we always tell our caregivers, I wanted to tell you before, our caregivers is like our family. Yeah, they are our family. So the first thing we tell them is they can't tell you. So behavior is your telltale.
Behavior is a form of communication.
Exactly.
They cannot tell, someone who's suffering with dementia cannot verbalize, I am in pain. I feel burning. Something's stabbing me.
Exactly. Or I have a headache. Or I have a headache. Or I'm hungry. So you look at the behavior and what's going on. Then you say, well, what just happened 10 minutes ago? Mom was okay yesterday. So most of the time, we tell our caregivers behaviors is the key. And usually, not always, it's going to be a discomfort of some kind. A UTI, a urinary tract infection,
Respiratory infection,
toothache, headache,
arthritis.
Yeah.
So how do you ascertain what it is?
Well, you have to take them to the doctor immediately. But the telltale sign is that immediate change, that personality change, that agitation. Maybe they're not usually aggressive or agitated, and now all of a sudden they are.
And then it's like a light bulb moment.
100%.
I want to bring you back to when we were doing the virtual Dementia Tour, and there was a 4-month-old baby, and she started getting a little fussy. And somebody said, oh, she's hungry.
Right.
You know? So
look for those cues.
Yeah, she can't tell us, but we kind of know.
Okay. So you have to be very acutely aware of any behavior changes.
Just because it's your mother doesn't mean that, you know.
Right.
Because sometimes it's our mom, so we know that our mom is going to tell us, but at this point, I can't.
I think there's an assumption and a denial that you think that they can still verbalize simple things like, I have to go to the bathroom or I have a headache, and they can no longer do that.
Yes.
We're getting close to the holidays. Of course, these are tips we could use at any time. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about that all-important getting through the holiday meal. It's a stressful time for anyone, can be even more stressful for anyone dealing with dementia, for them and the caregiver. So we'll get to that quickly when we come back from our break. Welcome back to our podcast. We are here with the founders of Act Now, and they're going to help us, if you're dealing with a loved one with dementia, get through that all-important holiday meal. Very stressful time for so many of us. So the first thing that you say is to kind of simplify your traditions. You might have this very complicated thing you used to do with your family. Maybe don't do it this year.
Simplifying life is key for you as a caregiver and for your loved one. Don't make the traditional, they might not remember the ritual, but they remember the feeling of the tradition. So also an important thing is try to do it earlier in the day.
For sundown.
Sundowning, and they're exhausted by the end of the day.
So you used to do it at 5, maybe do it at 1 or 2 o'clock.
Exactly.
Because you're going to start to lose them. As sundowning, the plaque builds up in the brain towards the end of the day, and then you're going to...
The agitation increases.
Right, for you and them.
Yeah.
And then maybe have somebody, if it's going to be a big gathering, have somebody that you appoint for your mom to be with, and they can, walk her through things.
Yes.
Maybe you're busy.
The support buddy.
Right.
The support buddy. Yes.
All right, my sister-in-law, don't like her much anyway. She's going to be in charge of mom the whole day. I'm just kidding, Sandy. But you are in charge of mom the whole day, because I got to cook. I have to know turkey.
And then at the end of the day, you want to make sure that have an exit plan, and don't feel guilty about it. If they start to get agitated or confused or disoriented, end the day a little early.
Right. Sometimes you feel that guilt,
Yes.
but they're tired. They want to go back to their environment. I'm just like, let her hang out. And somebody looked at me once and said, let her go. She's tired.
Yeah.
Let her lie down.
Yeah.
She can join you tomorrow, or she can join another time. But great and important tips for anybody. And this affects everyone in someone's life. You cannot talk to anybody that does not have a loved one dealing with Alzheimer's. The Act Now Foundation, all of your services are free.
Yes.
We saw the people and how much they rely on you to just get through their day. Thank you very much to the co-founders, Kristine Allen and Cary Lopez. And thank you all for joining us for this podcast from ABC7 NY. I'm Nina Pineda, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. I'll see you on 7 on your side.